Magnets don't actually attract. Here's what's really happening. The lie we've all been taught about magnets. Take a magnet, any magnet, hold it above a paper clip. You already know what's about to happen. The paper clip jumps, snaps upward, as if pulled by an invisible hand. And we all learn the same sentence in school. Magnets attract metal. Simple, clean, done. Except that sentence is wrong. Not partially wrong. Not technically misleading. Fundamentally wrong. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that physics reveals when you slow down and really look. Back-end index pointing right magnets do not actually attract things. Nothing is being pulled in the way your intuition imagines. And once you see what's really happening, magnets stop being cute science toys and start becoming one of the strangest demonstrations of how reality actually works. Let's rewind. When the paper clip jumps toward the magnet, it feels like attraction, like the magnet is reaching out, grabbing it, and pulling it closer. But physics asks a dangerous question. Pulled by what? There are no tiny hands, no invisible ropes, no suction, just space, empty space. So how does motion happen across nothing? This is where most explanations quietly lie to you. They say, magnets create a magnetic field and objects move in the field. That sounds explanatory, but it isn't. It's just renaming the mystery. Because now the real question becomes, what is a magnetic field actually doing? And more importantly, why does it only seem like attraction? To answer that, we need to throw away a deeply rooted mental picture, one that almost everyone carries without realizing it. The idea that forces work like pulling and pushing objects directly. Magnets don't work that way. In fact, no force in modern physics does. And once you understand magnets properly, you'll realize something even more unsettling. What you call attraction is actually a system rearranging itself to lower its energy. No intention, no reaching, no decide, just nature sliding downhill. The magnet isn't doing what you think it's doing. Here's the first mental shift you need to make. A magnet is not an active agent. It's not trying to attract anything. It's not sending out commands. It's just sitting there, quietly. So if the magnet isn't pulling, why does the paperclip move? Because the paperclip changes. That's the key most explanations skip. When a magnet comes near a piece of iron or steel, the magnet doesn't grab it. Instead, the magnetic field reorganizes the electrons inside the metal. Inside the paperclip, there are countless tiny magnetic regions, domains, normally oriented in random directions. Chaos, no net magnetism. But when a magnet comes close, those domains start to align. Not because they're commanded to, but because aligning lowers the system's energy. Nature loves lower energy states. Always has. Always will. So the paperclip becomes temporarily magnetized. And once that happens, something subtle but crucial occurs. Now you don't have magnet attracts metal. You have two magnetic systems adjusting themselves in space. And the motion you observe, the jump, is simply the fastest path toward a lower energy configuration. Nothing is pulling. Everything is falling, just not in the direction you expect. Attraction is a misleading word. We use the word attract because it fits human intuition. We're creatures who pull, grab, reach. But physics doesn't care about human language. In physics, forces don't work by intention. They work by gradients. Differences. Slopes. A magnet creates a region where certain arrangements are more stable than others. When the paperclip enters that region, it's like placing a ball on a hill. The ball rolls, not because the valley pulls it, but because rolling down reduces potential energy. The magnet isn't reaching out. The paperclip is reconfiguring itself and moving as a consequence. This is why the idea of attraction breaks down, because the magnet would do the same thing even if it were unconscious, destroyed, or ancient. No agency required, just physics. And here's where things get even stranger. Magnets don't even pull each other the way you think. Let's take two bar magnets. Opposite poles facing each other. They rush together. Looks like attraction again, right? But the same rule applies. Neither magnet is pulling the other. Instead, the combined magnetic field configuration of the two magnets has lower energy when they're closer together. So the system evolves toward that state. If you could freeze time and ask nature why the magnets moved, the answer wouldn't be because north like south. It would be because this configuration is more stable. That's it. No personality, no preference, no magnet emotions. And this matters more than you might think, because magnetism isn't some niche force. It's one face of something much bigger. Magnetism is electricity in disguise. Here's the twist that quietly blows the whole story open. Magnetism is not a separate force. It's electricity seen from a different perspective. This is one of the most beautiful results in physics. If you take electric charges and watch them move, and then switch reference frames, change how you're moving relative to them. Electric forces turn into magnetic forces. Same phenomenon, different viewpoint. That means magnetism is deeply tied to motion, relativity, and time itself, which means when a magnet attracts something, what you're really seeing is a relativistic effect of moving charges interacting through space. No pulling, no reaching, just fields adjusting and charges responding. And those fields aren't physical objects either. They're mathematical descriptions of how space itself is allowed to behave. Let that sink in. When a paper clip jumps to a magnet, it's responding to invisible constraints written into space. Why this feels so wrong to our intuition. Our brains evolved to throw rocks, climb trees, and avoid predators, not to understand field theory. So we default to a mechanical picture. Something grabs something else and pulls it closer. But that picture fails completely at the fundamental level. There is no grabbing. There is no touching. There is no pulling across space. Only local interactions and global constraints. Magnets don't violate emptiness. They reveal how structured emptiness really is. And this is why magnetism feels almost magical, because it exposes the gap between how we feel the world works and how it actually works. A dangerous question to end on. So if magnets don't really attract, if nothing is being pulled, if motion happens because systems slide toward lower energy configurations, then here's the question that should bother you. Is attraction ever real? Or is it just a word we use when we don't want to admit that the universe runs on invisible rules, not forces with intent? In the next part, we'll go deeper past paper clips and fridge magnets and uncover what magnetic fields really are, where they live, and why they might be telling us something profound about the nature of space itself. That's where magnetism stops being a trick and starts becoming a clue. Why attraction survives and what magnets are really telling us about reality. By now, magnets should feel very different to you. Not mysterious in a magical way, but unsettling in a deeper, quieter way. We started with a simple claim that sounded almost arrogant. Magnets don't actually attract. And piece by piece, that claim held up. No pulling across empty space. No invisible hands. No intent. Instead, we uncovered something far stranger. Objects rearrange themselves to lower energy. Fields are not things, but rules. Magnetism is electricity viewed through relativity. Motion follows geometry, not force. So now we arrive at the only question that matters. If attraction isn't real, why does the word refuse to die? Why does it feel so right, even when it's wrong? The answer turns out to be the final clue magnets are giving us. Why our brains invent attraction. Humans didn't evolve to understand energy landscapes or space-time geometry. We evolved to survive, to grab, to push. to pull. Our brains are built around agency, the idea that things do things. So when we see motion without contact, we automatically invent intention. The magnet pulls the metal. That sentence feels satisfying because it matches how we act in the world. But physics is under no obligation to match human intuition. In fact, it usually does the opposite. Attraction is not a physical explanation. It's a psychological one. It's the story our brains tell themselves. When they see a system moving towards stability and want a cause they can imagine, what's really happening one last time? Let's strip it down to the cleanest possible version. When a magnet and a paper clip move toward each other, no force reaches out. No object crosses space to grab another. No signal commands motion. Instead, the combined system has multiple possible configurations. Some store more energy, some store less. The universe evolves toward the lower energy configuration. Motion is not caused, it is allowed. That's the key distinction. Physics doesn't say, this must move. It says, this configuration is unstable. Everything else follows. The quiet rule running the universe. Once you see this, you start seeing it everywhere. A ball rolls downhill because higher energy states are unstable. Heat flows because uneven energy distributions don't last. Chemical reactions occur because certain bonds store less energy. Stars form because gravity, geometry, reshapes space-time. Magnetism fits perfectly into this pattern. It's not special, it's honest. It exposes the rule the universe never breaks. Energy gradients do not persist, and what we call forces are just the visible consequences of that rule. Why space is the real actor. Earlier, we said something that should have bothered you. Magnetic fields aren't objects. They're properties of space. Now let's finish that thought. Space is not empty, not even close. It has geometry, constraints, allowed motions, forbidden overlaps. When charges move, space responds. When configurations change, space updates the rules. Magnets don't act in space. They reveal how space behaves, which leads to a conclusion that feels almost philosophical, but isn't. Space may be more fundamental than matter. Matter might be what happens when space is allowed to vibrate, twist, and organize itself. Magnets are one of the few everyday objects that let you glimpse that truth without equations. Why this doesn't make the world less real. At this point, some people feel disappointed. If nothing pulls, if attraction is an illusion, if forces aren't real, doesn't that make the world feel less solid, less meaningful? Actually, it does the opposite. Because the universe doesn't need intention to work beautifully. It doesn't need desires or goals or commands. It runs on consistency, on rules so stable that stars burn for billions of years. And magnets stick to fridges every single time. That reliability is more impressive than any invisible hand. The strange comfort in a rule-based universe. There's something deeply grounding about this realization. The universe doesn't wake up and decide what to do today. It doesn't change its mind. It doesn't get tired. A magnet will behave the same way tomorrow. Not because it wants to, but because the structure of reality hasn't changed. And that structure is astonishingly elegant. Why we'll probably keep saying attraction anyway. Even after everything you now understand, you'll probably still say, the magnet attracted the paper clip. And that's okay. Language is a tool, not a contract. But now, behind that word, you'll know the truth. You'll know that what really happened was space enforced its rules. Energy rearranged itself. Geometry guided motion. Stability replaced instability. No pull required. The final shift in perspective. So here's the thought to take with you. The one that quietly changes how you see not just magnets, but the entire physical world. The universe is not a collection of things acting on each other. It is a landscape of possibilities. Objects don't move because they're forced. They move because some states cannot last. Magnets don't attract. They reveal. They reveal that reality is less about action and more about permission, less about force and more about structure. Why this matters more than it seems. This way of thinking doesn't stop at magnets. It reshapes how we understand gravity, quantum mechanics, time, even existence itself. Because once you stop asking, what force caused this? And start asking, what configuration became unstable? The universe suddenly becomes quieter, simpler, and far more profound. A final image to leave you with. The next time you see a magnet snap on a metal, don't imagine a pole. Imagine a landscape. Imagine a ball rolling into a valley, not because it's dragged, but because there is nowhere else for it to stay. That quiet slide, that unavoidable settling, that's what you just watched. And that is what's really happening.